what's up, everyone? Welcome to episode 32 of Zipline, the official Super Interactive podcast. I am Chris Roper.
I am Jeremy Dunham. We are a community team, and today we are joined by producer Tom Rigas. You may remember him from way back when he came on one of our early episodes. Today's episode is going to cover a lot. We've got our appearance at PAX East, the latest mag patch, SOCOM trophies, Bomb Squad, the beta, plus answers to a lot of questions.
But first, let's kick things off with the news. This week, as mentioned, we are at PAX East. It starts today. All 3 days, SOCOM 4 will be available to play. Multiplayer goodness. Come on by, play. We're going to have 8 on 8 up and running there. On Sunday, starting at 2 p.m., there will be a tournament held there. You can go by the booth for more details because you should go by anyway. But we're going to be giving away some trophies to people that go play there. And what's cool is if you go by and you play SOCOM 4, anybody that stops by will get a voucher to play in the beta. This will be for the Killzone 3 phase. We'll get to more details on that. Phase 3. We'll get to more details in a second.
And just one clarification: the trophies we're giving away to people who participate in the tournament are for the winners. You just don't. It's not like kindergarten where you show up and everybody gets a trophy.
A cookie and some juice.
That's right. It's you go in. If you win, you're going to get some pretty sweet trophies. So make sure that if you are attending and you are going to PAX, that you get there at 2 p.m. on Sunday to try and claim your prize.
Since the last podcast, we have revealed a few things. First one was Bomb Squad, and that's a new mode where you have a bomb technician who has to go around and disarm bombs, and your team has to defend him, and the other team has to take him down. And
we hinted at this at the end of our multiplayer trailer when we first revealed with the smoke and the heartbeat and the guys blowing up from the gun.
Yep. And so I think it's a really cool mode. I know a lot of the guys here, it's my favorite mode, I think. A lot of people here are very excited about it. And the one really cool thing about it is I mentioned that the bomb tech, and he has a unique automatic shotgun and a grenade launcher that are both unique to him. And to answer a couple of questions, a little bit of confusion about this, is he cannot use other weapons. He gets those two. If he dies, you can't pick up his weapons. And in classic mode, if he dies, the round ends. And there's a couple things that people were asking about, but there are your specifics.
The good news is we debuted this mode, as Chris said, about last week at GDC, and we had some very positive reactions to it. People had a lot of fun. That makes us happy. What also makes us happy is that I posted a post at the end of last week about, actually the beginning of this week, time flies, that we unveiled SOCOM 4's trophies, and well, at least the ones that aren't hidden. And so you can go to SOCOM.com to check out the list. You can find out lots of things about what it will take to get your virtual score higher.
Yeah, we think that you'll be happy with not having too many online trophies, so they're all achievable without being,
Yeah, there are a few in there, though.
Yeah.
And a couple of the hidden ones, I think people will be surprised to learn what those are eventually as they come out, which I'm sure they will. People will investigate.
And I will say they are certainly more achievable than MAG's trophies.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The last bit of news for the week is that we announced the details for the SOCOM 4 multiplayer beta. So this thing is coming out in 4 phases. On March 15th, which will be this coming Tuesday, we're going to begin a private beta. We're going to have a relatively small number of people who will be getting invites and codes and stuff like that directly from Sony. They'll be able to get in there, play the game on 15th.
And just so you know, that list has already been generated, so don't beg us for codes.
Although we will have some codes to give out.
We will.
Yeah.
But
please don't beg us for them anyway.
No, okay. So a lot of people out there will be receiving them, though.
Yes.
The list has been generated. Don't worry.
Yeah. Then 1 week later on March 22nd, PlayStation Plus members will get in, and due to any confusion with people talking to Yolanda, if you are a PlayStation, if you're on the forums, you know what that means. If you're a PlayStation Plus member, you will get in. There's no maybes or whatever. Then a week after that, on March 29th, people with the beta code that came with the early copies of Killzone 3.
And those in attendance at PAX.
That's correct. We'll be able to get in then. And then on April 5th, the beta opens up to everybody and freely available on the PlayStation Network. That will run until April 13th. And then SOCOM 4 will officially launch in stores on April 19th.
In North America.
And
one little clarification that I actually didn't hit on earlier about those beta codes for PAX is that you only get those beta vouchers if you play the game. Yeah. So you're not going to show up and say, give me a beta code and then walk out with it. You actually have to play the game. I know there's worse things to do in the world. So make sure
if you went in on the beta, I assume you're going to take a couple minutes to play the game while you're there.
Yeah, so make sure you get in there and you play the game. Tom, speaking of the beta, it's a very, very heavy topic conversation on the forums right now. Tell us about it. Tell us about the beta in general. There's a lot of questions out there. Even though we've already announced a lot of the details, some people might have missed the post or some of our forum conversations. What maps can we expect to see in the beta? What are they? What are they called? What are their settings?
So there are two maps that are included in the beta. The first one's my favorite map, which is called Port Authority, which is a port, basically. You're at a seaport.
Is it an authoritative port?
Yeah, lots of authority there, too. With shipping containers and cranes and lots of places to hide. It's a really cool map. It's one of my favorites. So the second map is Salt and Battery, which is set in the jungle. It's at an abandoned fort that has, again, it's got some great holding spots in it where people can hide and defend positions, as well as some great sight lines for attacking from a distance.
Sort of a holdover from World War II. And if you guys remember, the very first episode of Zipline, when we had Travis Steiner on, he alluded to that map when he was talking about some of the areas that you could play in.
Mm-hmm. Now, Tom, what modes can we play in the beta?
So we're going to include all the modes. We want to get a feel for how all the modes play. It'll be everything both in standard mode and classic mode.
And all the modes would be uplink, last defense, suppression, and bomb squad.
Boom.
That's correct.
The one thing that we do have to point out, though, and this is very key, is that even though that there's no time restriction on the beta, people will be able to log in all times of the day and play. The modes that you're going to have access to will be restricted. Those are going to be something that we specifically determine on a scheduled basis, and we'll have that schedule for you closer to release sometime next week.
Right, to make sure that people are playing the modes that we want and that, all those sorts of
things.
Another question about the beta before we continue on is what is going to happen to player stats? When the beta's in, are player stats going to carry over? Will people be able to keep going? What's happening?
No, we'll clear the player stats once the beta's over.
We did the same thing with the Mag Beta. It's about clear, giving everyone an even playing field. It's not it's not a very cool thing to say to those people who just bought SOCOM on day one. Guess what? You're going to go up against all these players that already have a huge statistical advantage over you in the rankings. So F you.
Yeah.
Another question that comes up a lot outside of the beta, it's for the game in general, is clans. Now we are going to allow clan matches in the beta itself, so that you can go ahead and set them up and create your own clan in the beta. Mm-hmm. But a question that comes up in general is, can you come into a clan match after one has already started?
And this is not just the beta, this is the game.
In general, yes. Yeah. Can you come back into one if it's already started? And if you leave, can you come back in to that game in that situation?
That's a good question. The way we're working on that system right now. The way we intend it to work is if you're in a clan if you're in the match when the clan match starts and you get kicked out or you lose your connection or you have to go run, you can rejoin. However, if the clan match starts and you're not in the game, you won't be able to join late.
Right.
So it's pretty much once you're in, you're locked. So don't do any last minute invites if you already started the game.
Correct. Now, Tom, as Jeremy mentioned, we released the trophies earlier in the week. And one of the trophies on there references completing a custom single-player campaign. And a lot of people in the forums are like, hey, what is that? Tom, can you tell us what that alludes to?
That's a good question. Custom single-player campaign matches are a lot like what the co-op campaign matches are. Basically, you can create a custom campaign that you can play with AI characters as your buddies, using the same maps and the same different options that you have in the co-op maps.
So there's takedown and espionage are the two modes you can play.
Yeah.
And there's going to be difficulty and density that you can choose from as well.
You can adjust those for the difficulty level that you're looking for.
I actually think that's quite a more challenging trophy than people think it is, especially if they play it on normal, because by yourself with AI, you're going to have to be really clever with your use of them, because our AI guys, especially in high density, don't mess around.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we've received a lot of questions about the weapons and the gear in the game, and this is probably one of the most frequent questions asked in the last week or so outside of the beta.
FAQ, if you will.
That's right. Mm-hmm. So a lot of questions as it refers to those games are, what weapon classes are there? How many weapons are there, roughly? And when will we get to see them in some kind of complete list? I can answer the last question, but I'll let Tom take the other ones.
So let me start by the total number. We have over 40 weapons, a great variety of different weapons in the game. We have assault rifles, SMGs, sniper rifles, machine guns, shotguns, and rocket launchers.
Yes, and not only that, but we also have gear items as well. So gear items are things like PMN mines or frag grenades, concussion grenades, and various other items. You're going to learn what all of those are in a future post that we're going to be doing sometime in the next few weeks. It's going to give you the complete list of weapons and items and what you can expect to see. We haven't done it yet because there's been so much other information coming out recently about the game. We didn't want to pack everything in at once, overwhelm everyone, but that is coming. You can expect to see it soon.
Speaking of things coming soon to the blog, we're getting a lot of questions and a lot of requests about if we're going to do map fly-throughs of all the multiplayer maps. And yes, we are going to do these, and they will be up on the blog. We don't have a timeline.
Or we will be doing thing, as I mistyped on our sheet.
Yes. We don't have a timeline for exactly when they will appear, but yes, we are going to do fly-throughs of some sort.
We're also going to be offering top-down views of the maps, so you can actually see them from a bird's eye view. You can take a look at them and understand the best points of entry and attack. So I think that's something that a lot of people are going to find very helpful and useful. And I know that they look great too.
Mm-hmm. Now, Tom, let's go back to talk about the beta specifically for a minute here. Right now we're very close to being done. We're basically trying to send the game off to get shipped and put a manual in there and ship it on April 19th. At what point was the build for the beta? Is that current code? What's in there? And what is the point of the beta? I mean, we're pretty close to release, so what are we going to do with the information that we get from the beta?
So the beta is current code. We basically branched off for the beta at the same time we branched off for our release build. So you'll be playing pretty much what will be in the box on day one.
But only for those two maps.
Only for those two maps, that's right. Just for the what's included in the beta. The point of the beta is to really, there's several things. Number one, we want to get it out there in front of you guys so you guys can play it. Number two, we'd like to get some feedback on those maps so that if there is things that we can tune and tweak in a patch early on, we can do that as well.
Particularly things like exploits.
Exactly. We're looking for anything that we do a lot of testing internally. We have a lot of external testing groups that we use, but it's never quite the same as getting it out there in the hands of the public. So anything we learn from that that we can address early on in a patch, we'll do that.
They also have things like load balancing as well, just understanding how well the game holds up with lots of people
There's
playing.
a lot of back-end stuff in terms of the servers and what our server layout works and how many games we can run on a particular server and how things get bogged down that we'll learn in the beta. And that's one of the other reasons we want to do a staged beta so that we can kind of control that in a way that we don't have everybody jumping in on one day and then find out that things won't be working for 2 or 3 days.
And anybody who played MAG, either in the beta phase or in the final game, which was our last project, or anytime over the last 2 years or so, you know that we also take these opportunities to listen to people to see what they think about specific aspects and see if we can take that information and apply that to the game in some way outside of just doing simple bug fixes and things like that.
Yeah, a good example of that is I've been getting a couple questions recently on how many claymores can somebody bring into a multiplayer game. And they say, in some of the other games you have people spamming them, or how's it going to work in Bomb Squad with the bomber going on? These are the kind of things that are perfect to figure out in the beta if you're playing and it feels like, hey, you don't have enough mines, you have too many of them, if sniper rifles are overpowered, if you don't have enough ammo for your SMGs. These are the kinds of things that are great to get feedback on, and please let us know what you think about how all of this works out, if things are overpowered, whatever. That's exactly the kind of feedback that we'd like to hear from you.
Of course, one of the most common questions when we have any beta about anything is, where do I send my feedback? When I have this feedback, you guys say you're listening, where do we put it? On the SOCOM.com forums, we're actually going to have a special beta forum, and you're only going to be allowed to enter it if you're in the beta itself. So it's actually smart enough to identify...
Magic.
It is. It's total Harry Potter stuff. That if it's going to be smart enough to recognize whether or not you're in the beta based on your username and your PSN ID and all that. And if you are part of the beta, you can then log into that forum and leave comments, questions, concerns, the whole deal. That will open at the same time that the beta goes live on the 15th. So you can't see it yet, but it will be there, and you can expect that we will definitely keep our eyes on it and pay very close attention to what you guys say.
Tom, once the beta gets out there and people get their hands on it, what do you think will make it a success?
Well, obviously, I think the number one success we want to find is, are people having fun with it? I think if you want to look at what we're looking to get out of the beta, what's going to be a success is if we get that kind of feedback that you guys just mentioned. What kinds of things that we tuned internally that we think we have right, but maybe not quite right when it gets out there in the wild. If we find a couple of those things and we make those adjustments and get them out there to you guys really quick, then I'll feel really good.
What happens if people go into the beta and a huge group of people say, we really love feature X, or we really dislike feature X? What will be a way that we take that information and then possibly apply it into the future? So
there's a couple things. Early on, we can take fairly easily tunable items and get those out to the fans pretty quickly.
Such as?
Things like the number of claymores. Things like, those grenades are too powerful. Or, I wish I could do, this with this weapon that I can't do right now. There are certain things that we can do. Yeah, things like that are fairly easy for us to change. Certain things that come down to feature requests. If it's a strong request for something like that, it's something we'll put on our list of things to consider. Those typically take longer. This isn't something we can get out in a couple weeks in a patch, but we can consider releasing those later on for the product.
How big of a deal is it when considering what features to add? Is the realistic time frame of getting something implemented? Something we've seen come up quite often, for instance, is we'd like to see the game speed be slightly faster when playing classic mode versus we would like you to add an entirely new weapon class. Can you talk a little bit about the differences in how requests like that are weighed against each other and the likelihood that things like that make it into the game?
So I always refer to this in terms of how many dials we're turning. When we get to the point where we're with a finished game and we're just tuning things, I particularly like to only turn one dial at a time. Things like play speed is one dial. Things like adding a whole new weapon class, that's a whole couple of dozen dials that we'd have to be really careful with. The more we play with different dials, the more we break the good gameplay that we have. So we have to that's the kind of decisions we need to make when considering adding new features.
Somebody recently has been kind of, every once in a while, somebody mentions, hey, are we ever going to add ghillie suits to the game? And we've talked about this on the show before of, it's come up in design meetings now and again, but it's not something that we're looking at doing right now. But ghillie suits are exactly one of those things where if they get added, it creates essentially this completely overpowered, comparatively now, overpowered character, and that would change. Okay, now we have to go back and look at what happens, what makes the other characters good, and how do we unbalance that guy, and all of these sorts of things. That's exactly the same thing that you're kind of talking about. You're tweaking not just one thing, but the entire game.
That's exactly right, Chris.
I think I'm going to call up some friends of mine at Capcom, and you know some of the guys over there too, and actually maybe for April Fool's Day we can get them to make us Guile suits for SOCOM 4. What do you think?
All right. Sonic Boom.
What kind of tough room? All right, so we've had a couple requests recently for people to have us name drop some fan sites on our podcast, which we're definitely going to be happy to do, and we plan to do in the future. But just a one little caveat we wanted to give out there for some people who have been asking us, particularly in regards to things like tournament sites and whatnot, is that as we get closer to the game now, we actually kind of want to stay away from making it appear as though we're endorsing any one tournament site over another. So if you're a fan site, something that's about the game, and you want people to know how much you enjoy the game and how much you like it, we'll be more than happy to let people out there know that you're around. But if you are a tournament site or some kind of competitive ladder, we're actually going to shy away from doing that in the future, because we definitely do want to avoid the impression that we're picking one site over another, and then you also open up the door to every competitive site might want you to do it.
Right.
So just a word of warning for those of you that might be asking. Just wanted to throw that out there for you.
Yeah. And with that, let's end the show this week. We still got lots of things to do to finish the game. As always, you can find us on your favorite social networking sites such as Twitter and Facebook. You can go to twitter.com/Zipper, and you can search for Zipper Interactive or SOCOM on Facebook.
And Chris might even check in from Foursquare one of these days.
I know. I've never used Foursquare.
No? Okay, well, never mind then. You can also send us any questions, comments, or recipes that you want to Zipline at zipperint.com. That's our official email address for this podcast. You can also visit any of our official forums on mag.com or socom.com to leave any comments you want and converse with fellow gamers about our games.
Speaking of SOCOM.com, folks have been asking us when we're going to have more stuff come on the game info tab specifically, or more things come on the site. Yes, and soon. The site is still a work in progress. We're getting more there. As for the next episode of Zipline, right now it is planned to come out 2 Fridays from now on March 25th. Our guest will be game director Seth Luisi. Sluicy is going to be, shouldn't repeat that, but he's going to be coming to talk about the beta, feedback from it, questions that people may have after they've gotten a chance to play it. We'll be, at that point, through the beginning of the PlayStation Plus entry. So I imagine most people listening to the show should have a good number of them in there. So after you get a chance to play it, send your questions to zipline at zipperint.com about what you've played, what you want to ask about, maybe versus the full game, or any suggestions that you have, and we'll talk to Seth about that on the next episode.
One last thing before we go, and it's not on the sheet, so I'm throwing Chris a curveball. Chris is about to celebrate the birth of his second daughter. He'll be out on paternity leave.
Hence why I said scheduled for the next one, March 25th.
Very, very soon. We anticipate sometime next week. So, Chris, on behalf of everyone at Zipper, we want to say congratulations early.
Thank you.
And we hope that you enjoy your time off. You're going to need the extra sleep. 2 kids. I know what you're going to experience. Yeah. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
Make me laugh a lot. Tom, thank you very much for visiting us.
Thanks for
having me, guys. I appreciate you coming in. And until next time, congratulations, Chris. We hope you enjoyed the beta. Bye.